These people want radical gender pornography in the classroom, but they don't want the Bible.
But they would say the Bible has pornography and incest and rape. So what do you say to that?
Ryan Walters, the superintendent of public instruction in Oklahoma, and he's a Trump partisan, loves Trump. So after Louisiana passed a law saying the 10 Commandments should be displayed in classrooms, it's a law that's been temporarily blocked by a federal judge. But after that, Walters declared that every class in Oklahoma public schools should have a King James Bible in it, and there should be teaching from that Bible. Then he sent out a video demanding that it be played in all public schools in Oklahoma.
For too long in this country, we've seen the radical left attack individuals' religious liberty in our schools. We will not tolerate that in Oklahoma. Your religious liberties will be protected. We've also seen patriotism mocked and a hatred for this country pushed by woke teachers' unions. We will not tolerate that in any school in Oklahoma. We want our students to be patriotic. We want our students to love this country. And we want all students' religious liberty to be protected. I will now say a prayer. And to be clear, students, you don't have to join. But if you so wish, I'm going to go ahead and pray. Dear God, thank you for all the blessings you've given our country. I pray for our leaders to make the right decisions. I pray in particular for President Donald Trump and his team as they continue to bring about change to the country.
Okay, now you can guess what the left is saying. He wants people to pray in schools. He wants them to pray for Donald Trump, which of course is the worst possible thing you can do. It's even almost worse than praying itself. Now I have to explain something that I think a lot of people don't get. This guy, Ryan Walters, he and I are culturally different, right? I'm a New Yorker. I find it really, really difficult to speak that bluntly about religion. It's a really tough thing. Like, for instance, a lot of times when I'm with Christian friends, they're in a restaurant, they want to say grace in the restaurant. As a New Yorker, I'm reluctant to do that. It's just a cultural thing. It has nothing to do with right or wrong. It has nothing to do with how I feel and whether I thank God for food. I thank God for everything, for every moment of life. I thank God truly, truly I do. But it's just not a thing that you do in New York. It's a thing that you don't do. And everybody agrees that you don't do it, just like there are cultural customs everywhere. So this guy and I are speaking it's like a different cultural language. And that's perfectly fine. It's a great, great big country with cities and countries and plains and, forests and all those things. And we all come from different places and we speak culturally. But everybody in the press, in the media is from my part of the culture. Everyone, almost all of them are if they didn't start out as coastal elites, they became coastal elites because all of the media is situated on the coasts. And so they become part of that culture and they get uncomfortable with this. But when we translate what Ryan Walters is saying, what he's trying to do into whatever language we speak, he is 100% correct. And this is one of the most important issues in the country. And of course, he came under fire from a CNN anchorwoman, Shapley Nudnik, who was interviewing him. And she was just very, very upset about the whole thing.
Scholars say the Constitution is crystal clear on freedom of religion, not enforcing one religion, your religion, on students. What do you say?
Look, CNN doesn't have to like it. Left-wing activists don't have to like it.
I'm just talking about facts. It's not my opinion.
Document. The Bible is a historical document. You can't rewrite history, okay? The reality is the Bible was what drove so many of the consequential events in American history. Why'd the Pilgrims come to America? Why in the world did Abraham Lincoln mention God and God's providence in so many of his speeches? How do you explain Martin Luther King Jr.'s letter from a Birmingham jail where he goes through biblical examples if the left continues to censor the Bible from our history classes? Listen, the left doesn't have to like it. They can be offended by it, but we've got to teach history to our young people to make this country great again. President Trump has a clear mandate. Our kids have to understand what made America great in the first place. And obviously the Bible, the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence are indispensable in understanding the story of America.
One of the things I love about this story is that remember when they brought into schools and little kids are looking at this homosexual and outraged parents showed up at school board meetings. They wrote to the FBI and requested that those parents be investigated as potential terrorists. And Merrick Babyface Garland immediately agreed that that's what it took him 10 minutes. Oh yeah, okay. Well, these guys are obviously, terrorists and we're going to stop them. And the people started to say, well, parents have the right to raise their children. The left said, no. They're all our children. It takes a village to raise a child. They're all our children. Now, suddenly, people are complaining that this guy is taking their parental rights away because he's not giving them, but he's giving them the Bible. It kind of reminds me of an argument I got into my father when he saw me reading the Bible. He would have much rather seen me reading than reading the Bible. Let's just, we'll have a little exchange about that with Shapley Nudnik and Ryan Walters. This is cut 9.
Everyone who signed that list, everybody suing me, they're the same people that want genderqueer inflamer in the classroom under the guise
That's
of...
not necessarily true.
Yes,
you are painting everyone with a broad brush.
I know the litigants in the case. The ACLU sued me on both, Southern Poverty Law Center. The reality is these people want radical gender in the classroom, but they don't want the Bible.
But they would say the Bible has incest.
Really?
So what do you say to that?
You think the Bible's on the same plane as genderqueer?
I'm not saying that. That's not what I'm saying.
I love what I like about Shapley's response there is that it's both stupid, but it has a sort of measure of interesting truth to it. And the Bible does have, incest and violence and all that stuff because it has life in it. And that's one of the reasons we think the Bible is true, is because the life in it looks like life. And one of the reasons I object to Christians who want everything to be sanitized and clean, because the Bible is not sanitized and clean. It has nothing to do with it. It is not in any way, shape, or form. It just has life in it, which includes a lot of bad things, as we know. Okay, so this is about this wall of separation between church and state. And that's, I'm sure most of you know, is a phrase contained in a letter by Thomas Jefferson to the Danbury Baptist Church. It was written in 1802. And it was Jefferson's interpretation of the First Amendment's dictum that Congress should make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. This had nothing to do with how states govern themselves. It had to do with what Congress could do. It should make no law respecting an establishment of religion. It was intended to protect the religious from the government. It was intended to keep the government from forcing one religion over another on people. Now, the Supreme Court takes that phrase from a letter, which is not in the Constitution, although the Constitution does make sure that the government keeps out of religion. And in 1878, they said this line from the letter may be accepted almost as an authoritative declaration of the scope and effect of the First Amendment. How they got there, I don't know. Then in 1947, Justice Hugo Black, in his opinion in Everson versus Board of Education, quoted Jefferson's term of wall of separation and said that wall must be high and impregnable, which meant that the separation of church and state would be applied in all aspects of government, not just the federal level. And it should be mentioned here, it's important that Hugo Black was a Ku Klux Klansman. He really was. He was a Ku Klux Klansman. He was known to hate Catholics. He was suspected, and this was before Michael Knowles, so he had no excuse. He was known to hate Catholics, and like as the Ku Klux Klan did, the Ku Klux Klan was for Protestant. Their version of Protestant Christianity involved burning a cross on your lawn if they didn't like you, if you were Catholic or Black or Jewish or any of those things. And Hugo Black was one of these guys, and he didn't apparently believe the historical clues are that he didn't believe in religion, and he kind of rejected it. So somewhere around the same time, there was another decision, McCollum versus Board of Education. The Supreme Court said, in the words of Jefferson, the clause against establishment of religion by law was intended to erect a wall of separation between church and state. And this is when they said that religious instruction in public schools should not be allowed. So this wall metaphor now entered the schools. Now, these decisions are wrong on so many levels, and it was not, I think, what the Constitution was trying to protect. And Jefferson was the most radical of the founders, and I frequently disagree with him, but he's important to include because I believe we should have kind of a strain of revolutionary thought running through our country. That's a good thing. It just shouldn't be predominant, but it should be there, and Jefferson is included in the founders. You can't get rid of him and shouldn't get rid of him. However, what's happened now is these wrong decisions, these misguided decisions, have now been enforced on every school in the country by the ACLU, the Un-American, Uncivil, Unliberty Union, okay? And what they do is they go in and they sue you. If you put up this 10 Commandments or you teach about the Bible, you teach what's in the Bible, they go in and they threaten to sue you. And most schools don't have the money to handle a lawsuit, so they cave in. They cave in and they avoid these lawsuits. And if you've ever been in any kind of business, you know that nobody wants to deal with a lawsuit. And so the minute that becomes a threat, people run for the hills. Problem is, if you stop discussing God in your school system, you're essentially ceding the point that God doesn't exist because you talk about things that are real. in life. You talk about science. You talk about literature. You talk about math. You should talk about God. You should learn about God. And, that's why, by the way, a lot of people want to bring hellfire against people who have different religions. If you're a Jew and you don't accept Jesus Christ, or if you're Islamic and you're, not one of the violent Islamic people, but people who are Islamic, you're supposed to hate each other. No, I think that people should talk about God in a civil way and talk about their differences. I want to hear why people believe something different than me, because nobody's seen God, as the Bible tells us, right? And so you want to be able to hear all the things, all the ways that God may get into people's lives. I'm really interested in that. So this is why, one of the other things that Shapley Nudnik said on CNN to Ryan Walters was like, why don't you teach the Quran? Well, here's my plan, because I think this is important. The ACLU has chased religion out of schools, which is, in fact, chasing God out of schools. I think public schools, anyone that will agree to do it, like in the red states especially, should teach a class on the Bible and how it influenced the worldview of every single founder that we had. Every single founder was shaped by the Bible, even the few of them who were deists and didn't believe in the Christian religion. Every one of them was shaped by the Bible, because we're all everybody in the West was shaped by the Bible, because the culture was shaped by the Bible. That is a legitimate class, right? That is a legitimate historical class. And then I think that's one class. And then I think there should be another comparative religion class that teaches the different way that the most important religions, not every little creed and sect, but the most important religions that have shaped the world differ on the way God looks. That's what I think they should do. And then I think they should wait for the ACLU to sue them. And then I think every one of us should take $1 out of our pocket and send it to them so they can fight that lawsuit back to the Supreme Court, where there is now a majority of sensible constitutionalists who might turn those decisions around. I think every state in the union that has any conservative bent at all should institute these things into the lowest levels of our children's schools. I think children should be talking about God for the simple reason that God exists, and they should be talking about reality all the time. We were bullied out of our religion. We should bully it right back into the public square, because that's where it belongs, and that's where God belongs. For more spectacular stuff, like and subscribe. And for even more, subscribe to The Andrew Klavan Show wherever you get your podcasts.